Let's start with Louisville, Florida State.
Louisville, Florida State. Okay, so Florida State 2.5-point favorite here. This will be 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC in Charlotte. Could be rain in the forecast, a lot of rain. So keep an eye on that. Over-unders come down on this game a bit, as you'd expect. So, and again, this is the game that's tough to handicap because there's a backup quarterback with Florida State. And now look, the Florida State rushing attack's not as good as last year. Outside the top 80 in success rate, they hit explosives, top 10 in explosives, but there's not been a lot of offensive line continuity. They're constantly changing guys. Last week, let's go with the better run blocker guard, move that, tackles have been hurt, rotating guards, and they lose a ton of EPA in the run game without Travis. Just a ton. And Louisville's top 20 rush success rate allowed. Not maybe you get a couple explosives, but now you don't have Travis. So what can Rodemaker do? Well, I'll tell you, I told you last week I had an 8-point drop off. After what I saw last weekend, it's now 10. I think Rodemaker stinks. And by the way, people were like, he came back and he beat Florida on the road. Guess what? Florida also had a backup quarterback. Like, can we stop with that narrative? And Florida had a ton of injuries. And by the way, Florida's defense blows.
Arkansas won on that field. All right. Can we do Arkansas won on that field?
Yeah. I mean, they are horrendous. And the team that's been routinely giving up 450 yards, 40 points every week. Florida State broke a run late. You know how many yards they finished with in that game? Against that bad Florida defense that also had injuries. The total yards in that game, Florida 232, Florida State 224. Rodemaker finished 12 of 25 for 130 yards against the defense that ranks dead last in explosiveness allowed. Not good. And now there's going to be weather. You're going up against a good pass rush. Louisville does have a really talented secondary. They're aggressive. They can give up some explosives. I didn't see anything. I know Rodemaker did it last year against Louisville. He just threw it up to Johnny Wilson. I'm not sure he's fully healthy right now, but Bill has good corners. Brownlee should be back, the ex-FSU player. He should be back in full. Riley, Quincy Riley's been the best corner in the ACC, in my opinion. He didn't even I think he got like honorable mention. And then Storm Duck out there. They can match up. They can get pressure. Bill's 13th worst in explosiveness allowed, 12th on passing plays. That's how you beat them. Florida State is third in explosiveness, but there's no Jordan Travis now. It's Tate Rodemaker. There's going to be weather. Louisville can load the box here. And by the way, this Florida State team, which I talked about how inconsistent they've been all year, I'm going to ask you a question. Can you pull up the Florida State schedule? And by the way, Florida State penalty issues. They've had a ton of good fumble luck as well. My prediction for this game, by the way, I like Louisville. I want 3, got beat up early. I want 3. I'll probably be on Louisville regardless in some form or fashion. I think Louisville wins this game. We'll learn if there's football gods, because if there's football gods, Louisville will win this game. And we don't need to have Florida State, who I make 17.5-point underdog against Georgia on a neutral field. We don't need to talk about that game for a month. So we will learn if there's football gods. But take a look at the Florida State schedule. I want you to answer me one question. Keep in mind, Riley Leonard got hurt for Duke. And Van Dyke was hurt for Miami. Who's the most complete team, offense and defense, that Florida State played this year?
Offense and defense, he says.
Yeah,
that kicks LSU completely.
So LSU's defense, one of the worst in the country.
Don't make me
Clemson's offense, horrendous. The other games, Southern Miss, BC, Va Tech.
I mean, Virginia Tech's got some balance these days.
Yeah, but they didn't have it then. Duke with Leonard hurt, Pitt, Miami without Van Dyke, North Alabama, and then Florida with a bad D and a backup quarterback. They haven't played a complete team. This is the most complete team they will face all year. Yeah. With a competent offense, competent defense. I think it's a 10-point drop-off. I make Louisville a favorite in this game. And I'm not even a huge Louisville guy, but offensive line continuity for them. They can hit run explosives with Garendo and Jordan against Florida State. Florida State's outside the top 90 in that department. So, yeah, I think how I see this game playing out, lower scoring. I'll call it like 21-17-ish. It's going to be late.
Yeah.
Rodemaker strip sacked, recovered, game over. Louisville wins. So lean under here. There's a lot of uncertainty, but I do like Louisville, and I think they're going to win. And I hope there are football gods do exist. What do you see here?
Yeah, I agree with your score prediction because I think the under is the play here. If you split out what Tate Rodemaker did, I mean, he didn't have a TD or an INT. He went 12 of 25 passing, but Johnny Wilson received nearly half of all the targets in that game. Keon Coleman had 6 targets, but only caught 1 of them. None of them were drops. I don't know what's going on between Rodemaker and Keon Coleman. They cannot get connected whatsoever. So it's really the Johnny Wilson show. He had over half the targets that Rodemaker threw. So if Louisville has corners or maybe double teams with the safety, they can come down and jump on that. Like Johnny Wilson is it. I mean, outside of that, Tate Rodemaker doesn't have any options whatsoever. Now, Florida State's outside the top 100 in rushing success rate, line yard stuff rate. So really, that's it for the offense. The Seminoles have to hit Johnny Wilson or there's nothing left for Tate Rodemaker. And almost all of his throws were short and between the hash marks, very low risk. He went 7 of 9 from behind the line of scrimmage up to 10 yards within the hashes. And you have to ask if Louisville, who lives in 3-3-5, 65% in zone, most of that is cover 3, cover 1. Are they going to go cover 1, play man on the outside, try to stop Johnny Wilson? That's what I think that they're going to do. I think they'll have success here. I definitely like the under here. One thing that's in the back of my mind is that Florida State has been a great second half team. They're 7-2-1 against the spread in the second half this year. Played that against Florida. They never looked back. I think Rodemaker finally got some identity as to what he wants to do with the offense, and they came through, but that was Florida's defense. That's not Louisville's defense. But I look at what Kentucky did to beat Louisville. They got scores on the board by having Devin Leary hit Ray Davis out of the backfield for 2 touchdowns. Ray Davis also added a rushing touchdown.
Ray Davis now on the portal, by the way.
Yeah, jeez. Trey Benson and Lawrence Toafili, they have 23 targets or less and a receiving TD apiece on the season. Each were targeted just once by Rodemaker in that game against Florida. So what Kentucky did to beat Louisville, Florida State doesn't do, and I'm not sure Trey Benson and Lawrence Toafili are capable of doing it. So I like the under in this game. Pulling for Florida State to get knocked out of the playoff like everybody else. I got a Texas ticket I need to get in there. I will say for people following on the app, there's probably going to be a live bet or a second half play on Florida State only for hedging purposes on the Texas future that I have to go to the college football playoff. That's it. It has nothing to do with me loving Florida State. So keep your eyes open on that, but under is the play.
You think Louisville wins?
No, I think Florida State's going to win.
Wow.
Barely.
No football gods.